spray your colors. Pick up some red, violet, red, I don't bother washing off my colors. Now we're going to pick up some yellow, some warmer yellow. Give us a nice pretty blush color. And then I'm going to take this section over here, just add a bit more white, a bit more yellow, a bit more red. Just a touch of the red violet. And I make different color variations. So this one will have more white, this lighter color, a bit more yellow, more of a fleshy apricot color. And if you want to see what these look like, and then diluted. There we go. They're just subtle variations. Start by getting this petal here wet. Still have a tiny bit of pink on my brush. That's okay. When I lift up my brush, when I leave my area, if I stop down here, that's where the most of my pigment will sit. And now that that's wet, I'm going to take my darker color here and just drop it in the bottom. And you can push it up if you want, but remember, let go of it at the bottom so it kind of has the most concentrated area here. And then you're not going to want to work on any petals that are touching it unless you want that bleed look. So I'll start back here. Fill in this part of the petal will be darker because it's the inside and it's behind. And then I can rinse off my brush, dab it on a napkin, and just bring a little bit of that color, gently, gently, gently allow a bleed to happen here. Okay, now I'm going to work on the next petal. I personally am okay with it bleeding a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and work through. Get it nice and wet. While it's still wet, dab in some more color. If it's too saturated and you need to take some out, you just take your paper towel and you dab off your brush, drag towards the base and wipe it off. Drag towards the base and wipe it off. And then you have a little bit less water to work with, so your color won't spread as far. Now, just to add in some variation here, I'm going to take more of my like peachy apricot color and just dab in some here. It's really, really subtle, so it's not going to be a huge variation. A lot of people probably won't notice this unless they like to do art. Okay, again, get some more water. Dab off my water so I don't have too much. Get a little bit more of this pinky color since I used the apricot to wash it. I really like to show varied color throughout the flower. Some people want it to be super consistent. It's all your preference. Take some of that water out. Allow a little bit of bleed to happen there. Put some apricot back in here. And it allows for some consistency throughout the flower. I'm going to rinse off that color, get some cleaner water to spread this one around. I'm not being super careful here, but I can just go right over that. Now my outside edges where the petals curl, I kind of want those to be darker actually. This one, because it's the tip, should be lighter. So I can take that color off by wetting it with clean water. Kind of rubbing it a little bit, kind of brings off that pigment, and then just dry your brush on a paper towel. That'll give you a nice little highlight area. So these ones I'm naturally going to want a little bit darker. My little buds. Get a little bit more water, a little bit of that apricot color. If your wash begins to dry, you're going to get kind of a hard edge, like a watermark, like a cauliflower looking thing. The way to get rid of that is just to maybe rinse off your brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and then continue to drag that water once again over the area that has dried, and that'll make a continuous soft blend of colors, like right here. Let's blend that out just by carrying it through. If you can keep it wet, that's ideal. Now, because these are all turning one color, because the space is small, I'm going to dry off my brush and just lift a little bit of color off to allow for a highlight. And let's see here. Let's go a bit more apricot for the middle. Rinse my brush, dab it off on my paper towel, and kind of wash off that tip to give me a highlight. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just go really subtle, really light with the apricot on this one. Okay. And that's just about dry enough to start adding in my darker colors here. I'm going to allow this one to stay nice and saturated. That's what I want. So I can just let that pigment sit there. If it's looking too light, then I can just grab a little bit of red and mix it back in. Okay, now let's mix up our green. Get some water on my brush, take this green area here. Kind of a sagey green I had going on. Now I'm going to pick up some sap green. Just going to play with it. I like kind of this more golden yellow color, this warmer color. And if you can see, I kind of mixed in the apricot before. I really like that. Gives it a nice warm color. And I think it's kind of a added surprise when you're doing the leaves and then there's a little pop of like yellow or orange in the leaf. I think that's really pretty. So let's go ahead and start painting the leaf. Move back to the middle of my page here. Got a lot on my brush, so I'm just going to dab it off. Now I'm just going to paint like a few undersides of my leaves really quick. And while those are wet, I'm going to rinse my brush, pick up some of this true sagey green, and do the other side of the petal so you get a nice blend. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be one specific side of the leaf. I like the blend. If you have a little bit of a puddle, you can tap it off on a napkin. That one's going to leave a little bit of a watermark because it started to dry. That's okay. I'm not going to do it on every single petal. These ones can just be green. Excuse me, every single leaf. These ones that are up top, I kind of want them to fall back. I want this flower to be the main point, so I'm not going to go too dark with them. Because the lighter they are, the more they like fall back to the background. Okay, now I'm going to do my stem. And I'm going to add a little bit more of this yellow green in here just to give it some varied color, make it a bit more brown. And then the last thing we need to do is add that pretty pop of yellow in the center. Rinse off my brush. And I'm just going to go really saturated here, and I really like this dark yellow and this warm yellow. I'm just going to tap it in here. Whoops. Got my pink, it was still wet. Use a bit of clean water and a paper towel. I don't expect perfection. It's just a fun, pretty pop of pink blush flower, and it's beautiful, it's happy. I hope you enjoyed it.